Have you heard? Youth gang members drive Melbourne's crime surge, Victoria crowned car theft capital, and underage car thieves contributing to the state's worst crime crisis in 20 years. I mean, these are all headlines coming from the big news groups, all pointing to one thing: be scared of youth crime. The media's portrayal of youth crime surges, the government's proposed solutions, and the scale of the youth crime crisis is skewed, poorly handled, and motivated by political incentives. The real reason behind youth crime is much deeper than the laws not being strict enough or lack of consequences for youths. The crisis is caused by lack of care, lack of rehabilitative programs, and diversion from crime being seen, and diversion programs from crime being seen as useless. Time and time again, the main media outlets in Victoria catastrophise the issue of youth crime, causing panic and fear in Victorian communities because of, its vicious nature. The media focuses with a polarised lens on specific events of youth crime and provide a lack of statistics, opting for flashy headlines to draw in views. But statistics do show that the rate of youth crime has fallen by 6% in the previous year, which is the first time in 4 years that's happened. This statistic shows that crimes committed by young people are dropping, meaning that the state's worst crime crisis in 20 years couldn't be caused by this declining offending group. So why is the media highlighting this group? Is it because the media outlets have sponsors and political agendas that fund them to push the public in certain ideological directions? We don't want the media telling us what is right and what is wrong with loosely fact-based events and headlines. The media must stop using youth crime as a way to increase views at the cost of public care and respect for struggling children. But they're not just children. They're the future. They're the future parents, workers, farmers, and leaders of Australia. We need to defend the facts and help children rather than create hate-filled media. Show statistics, not fear-monger to the public. Explain events and be clear on our stance for our future generation. And that mass media coverage and outrage from the community due to it has pushed the Victorian Allen government to make rushed and dramatic laws that target, punish, and imprison troubled youth offenders. One law the government created is the Adult Time for Violent Crime Act. Now, this act, making it so all youth offenders who commit serious violent crimes are treated as adults. A child in court with a jury and a judge, prosecuted as if they are an adult. Now, does that not seem wrong to you? A child that has been blamed by the community for their circumstances. A system that doesn't care for them. And now they are treated like adults. Amnesty International says, responding to the behaviour of children with adult consequences flies in the face of decades of evidence, which shows that children who are caught in offending need care, rehabilitation. They need to be diverted away from the criminal system, not sentenced to 20 years of it. Now, the quote shows exactly how the government is providing rushed, poorly handled, and politically pressured solutions. And this proves that vulnerable kids need help. Punishment is not the right course of action. So, obviously, rehabilitative programs are the correct solution. having government-funded programs instead of prison yards and psychologists instead of prison wardens. And listen, youth crime is real, okay? It is a problem. But the political storm surrounding it has brought forth many solutions that undermine the underlying causes of the issue. And these issues being systematic racism towards minorities, generational trauma caused by systematic injustice and the cost of living, the increase in crime after COVID has been due to the cost of living. Poor, helpless children are forced to steal, rob, and join criminal groups in order to provide for themselves. That isn't a failing of young people, that's a failing of the system around them. Now, 64% of Victorian young offenders were victims of abuse, trauma, or neglect as a child. This reflects how people in poorer communities and people with less socioeconomic stability are worse off. The situation directly affects poor communities. The government's proposals keep Labor in power by hurting black and brown children. Aboriginal people are most at risk, and they are at higher rates of offending due to their intergenerational trauma and their treatment. And I do agree that it is important to address crime, issues and worries of the community. Okay, yeah. But the Victorian government and the media blatantly disregard other issues of poor communities in order to shift blame to the people. I mean, this is done to avoid dealing with the real mental health issues and economic issues. And the youth crime crisis is skewed and pushed into the people's faces as a crisis that must be stopped. While true, the media lies. The governments create oppressive laws and that targets minorities affected by the cost of living crisis and their socio-economic situations. Would you want your kids committing crime? If not, then why allow people to be in a situation where they must? Why shun struggling people for the system's issues? Don't allow kids to suffer. They didn't set the system up. They're just kids. Thank you.